Returning to Haifa is a novella that is valuable literarily, both intrinsically and for its transcultural and transnational implications. Nonetheless, its ideological claims threaten to overshadow its literary, narrative complexity. Through a number of interrelated plots concerning return and a sustained examination of the problematic metaphors of home and land, Returning to Haifa concerns the impact of Palestinians who had fled during the 1948 war with Israel returning in 1967, when the borders between what was formerly the Jordanian West Bank and Israel were reopened. The novella text bears political and ideological significance. Its author Ghassan Kanafani, a figure of political suasion within Palestinian culture and specifically its literary corpus, was killed by a car bomb activated by Israeli Mossad agents in Beirut in 1972 in retaliation for his leadership role in the Marxist Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Return to Haifa is a novella written by Palestinian author and journalist Ghassan Kanafani, mainly depicting Israel's occupation over the Palestinian lands during the 1948 war in Haifa when Britain was in control of the land. The novella is an experience of Kanafani but also illustrates what Palestinians go through. As argued by critics, Kanafani successfully weds literary technique to political practice, as his fictional characters tend to reflect the Palestinian condition. Returning to Haifa tells the story of a Palestinian couple who goes back to Haifa after the 1967 war to look for their baby, whom they were forced to leave behind in the War of 1948. The story tells about Safiya and Said, who were forced to leave their home in Haifa in 1948. Haifa became the subject of military conflict between Palestinian Arabs and Jews during this period, which caused the inhabitants to leave the city. However, in the chaos of the escape, the couple's 5-month-old son Khaldan was lost and left behind in the city. After escaping from Palestine, the couple began to live in Ramallah, which is located in East Jerusalem. Safiya and Said returned to Haifa 20 years after the opening of the Mandelbaum Gate to look for their son. After a long search, the couple found their house, in which the widow of a long-dead military man lived. Their son also lived there, whom they found under a different name and wearing an Israeli army uniform. The story focuses on revealing the characters' feelings about the events of the past, as well as highlighting the situation they had to endure. The story of Safiya and Said and the fate of their son is tragic, but more tragic is its ending. Safiya and Said epitomize defeat, as Khaldan rejects all ties to them after their return to Haifa. First of all, when they arrived at their home in Haifa, the couple found it occupied by other people, Miriam and Dov. It was later revealed that Dov is their son Khaldan, but he does not agree to accept his biological parents. An interesting scene unfolds between Safiya, Said, and Miriam as they wait for Dov or Khaldan to return home. Miriam describes how Dov never returns on time, always being late as his father, Kanafani 171. Miriam hesitated, but then Said suddenly wondered, what is fatherhood? Kanafani 171. This episode shows how doubts in Said's soul were born because he realized that 20 years was too long a time. Moreover, their son was raised in another family and brought up by other people, which cuts off all ties with his origin. Safiya was completely sure that Dov, upon meeting them, would immediately return to her biological parents. She claims that it's impossible to deny the call of flesh and blood, Kanafani 172. However, Said explained to her that Khaldan had lived in an atmosphere of deception for 20 years, and the truth was different for him. After that, Safiya expressed her bitter regret that they had left the city 20 years ago, but there was no way to change the situation. Upon returning home, Dov, having learned about his origin, objected that he did not know other parents except Miriam and her husband, Kanafani 179. The defeat of Safiya and Set is illustrated by the fact that their biological son was raised as a Jew and perceived the couple as enemies. Khaldan, who became Dov, did not know any other power and truth than that which was given to him by the Jewish people. His Arab roots did not become an argument for accepting biological parents. He did not doubt the ideas that were familiar to him. In the end, Safiya and Set are convinced that their hope for the return of their son is illusory. They admit that he is a different person, not the 5-month-old boy they left in Haifa. They acknowledge their defeat, which is epitomized by Israel's success in instilling different values and beliefs among the locals. They managed to raise a generation that is true to the Jewish people and considers itself a part of it. Through its complex, open-ended story and its narrative sophistication effectively employing voice, imagery and literary realism, Returning to Haifa is a text that appeals not only to the Palestinian and larger Arab community, but also interests a more diverse university-educated community, including many Western Jews. Returning to Haifa describes the contours of Palestinian history between 1948 and 1967, and promotes a discursive model for Palestinian resistance, while probing the effects of this strategy and its implications. In the wake of Kanafani's death by assassination, construed by his Palestinian followers as martyrdom, and his widow Annie Kanafani's establishing the charitable Ghassan Kanafani Cultural Foundation in his memory and actively managing the copyright for his writing, the novella and his other work are deployed, eliciting further ideological implications.